Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about some of the cards that I think could have used a reprint in a Mythic booster. If you guys saw yesterday's video, I talked about a bunch of cards that I don't really think needed to be reprinted, at least for competitive play wise. They're probably pretty solid, like art and collector reprints for sure. But I still want to drive the point home that I think Mythic Booster is an absolutely incredible product. Once again, kudos to Bandai for doing a set like this, just making a lot of the hard to get cards more accessible for a lot of the players. And not every single reprint in a set like this can be a home run. Totally get that. You guys should totally understand that as well. Some of the cards being reprinted are just for their collector value, for their art value. That's a really great thing in my opinion. I also want to let you guys know that I am working on some World Championship primer content. So I'm still trying to research some stuff for that, put some information together for that. Hopefully get you guys a video on that by tomorrow. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. But anyways, we'll get into this video. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. Anyways, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first and foremost card for me personally that I wish was being reprinted in Mythic Booster is Piccolo Jr. Eradicator of Peace. So again, from yesterday's video, the main themes of Mythic Booster as far as the reprints go was reprinting promos and a handful of like really hard to get draft box cards. These are the cards that have historically been the toughest to get for players in Dragon Ball Super. So the theme for Mythic Booster, absolutely on point. This is a card that I think they definitely missed the mark on though. Piccolo Jr. Eradicator of Peace is basically the linchpin of red-green right now, and probably will be until it either gets banned or power crept in some way, because this card is just absolutely insane for 2 energy. Burn a life, draw 2 cards, huge double striker depending on what you alliance with. It's just a crazy high value red-green card, and probably will be as long as red-green is like a relevant color combination. This card was also the linchpin of the red-green turn 2 King Vegeta deck back before the field card was banned. Again, offering just crazy high value for the tempo of that aggro deck. So whenever red green comes back into the format, you can totally expect Piccolo Jr. to be a popular card again. Back when it was popular in the meta, this was anywhere from like $40 to $50 a copy. Now, while it's seeing no play and hasn't really seen play for the last like format and a half, it's still a $20 card, which is really surprising, but not really surprising when you consider like how the secondary market for Dragon Ball Super has been, especially in relation to draft box cards. But yeah, this card, for me at least, probably the #1 most disappointing card that isn't being reprinted in Mythic Booster. Really could have used one, in my opinion. Then we have 2 TP cards. So firstly, I'll talk about Son Goku and Vegeta Saiyan Synergy, which at the time of recording for the lowest rarity version of the card is about $20. There's also the winter stamp version of the card, which is more expensive, and I believe this is also being reprinted in the collector edition binders, but that's not really like a widely accessible reprint type of set. That's more of like a, you know, a collector thing where you have to go out of your way to buy it from Bandai, get it delivered to you and whatnot. And those are not like, you know, meant to make the cards more accessible. It's more like a special thing for players to have like these alternate art cards from a very specific type of thing, right? So as far as making the card more accessible, it would have been really cool if Goku Vegeta Saiyan Synergy was reprinted in Mythic Booster. The only reason I think this card is sitting on a $20 price tag is because of the collector value. This card just has both of the Golden Boys right there on the card, which really don't see all that often. And as far as I'm aware, this card's never even seen like topping success. Like, it's never been really good in a tournament. Maybe a blue deck here or there has sided the card in a top 16, but even then I don't recall ever seeing that. So the card doesn't really have the competitive reason to be expensive. Again, I think it's just really for that collector value. So it would have been really cool if players, you know, wanted to collect this card, or if they wanted to possibly sideboard it in a future format to make it a bit more accessible. Because with the collector value, and if the card ever becomes meta relevant, the thing is going to skyrocket. Like, it's already sitting at $20 for no reason. If it becomes competitively viable, the card is going to skyrocket. So this card, at least in the near future, could definitely use a reprint to make it more accessible for players if it does end up becoming meta relevant. Then we have Supreme Kai of Time, Summon from Another Dimension. So I want to be totally fair here, because this card obviously goes in the Gogeta Xeno deck, and 2 of the main expensive cards in Gogeta Xeno are being reprinted in Mythic Booster. We have SS3 Gogeta Thwarting the Dark Empire, and we have SS4 Goku Beyond All Limits. Just those 2 cards alone being reprinted is going to drastically reduce the price of the Gogeta Xeno deck, which I think many players will be very happy about. But it would have also been nice if this card were to be reprinted as well, just to really overall reduce the price of the deck. And what you got to kind of consider is that these TP promos that came out like kind of like in the beginning and midst of COVID, these were the toughest ones to get because there were the least amount of, you know, local tournaments while these cards were in circulation. So would be really nice if these cards become more accessible in the near future. Then we have the IARs, the iconic attackers for each color. These cards are still pretty tough to get. The regular printings of the card, I believe, are about $12 to $15 depending on which one you're looking at, because some of them are more meta relevant than others. And then you have the collector rare edition, which is even more expensive because they're even harder to get. So these cards still pretty tough to obtain. They are from set 9, so they're before the Unison Warrior block. So I feel like these would have been a prime reprint for Mythic Booster, especially considering that at one point or another, most of the iconic attack rares have been played in their respective colors, at least to some degree. So it would have been pretty nice if these cards had a more simple reprint to get for the budget players. That would have been really cool. And then I just want to mention Determined Super Saiyan Son Gohan, only really because they're reprinting a really old Ginyu promo from back around the same time this card was in circulation as a TP promo. And this has really been the only one to maintain a relatively high price tag. I was actually going through some TCG player prices before doing this video, and I actually saw that I believe it's a level 2 judge version of this card is still about $80. So that's got to be totally for collector purposes and people that just want to play like set 2 mirror matches, right? So with that in mind, the regular printing of this card is nowhere near as expensive as it was, but I guess if you were going to print something for like a nostalgia factor, this could have been the card again over that Ginyu. But it is possible that them reprinting that Ginyu TP is kind of just like an inkling of the fact that they might support yellow Ginyu stuff in the near future. But yeah, that's just a good way to infer some info about what might be happening in upcoming sets. Could mean nothing, or could mean that we're getting some yellow Ginyu support sometime soon. Then we have Son Gohan Changing History. So this is really meant to like represent a larger slew of cards, not just specifically the anti-dimension magic silver bullets, but in this draft box in particular, this is one of the first sets where we randomly didn't get reverse foils for commons and uncommons and rares. I believe rares in the set actually only came foil, but anyways, it's the first set where they kind of, went back to the old method of printing cards for whatever reason. So it would have been cool if cards like this, especially that are pretty much side deck staples in certain formats, would have been nice if they had an alternate art foil or even just like a regular art, reverse foil. That would have been nice. But there are probably a ton of other just like draft box common and uncommons that have seen play here or there that could have had really cool foils or alternate arts. So it would have been nice if some of those cards that don't even have any foil printings could have gotten some in Mythic Booster, which I think there are a couple maybe, but probably some more predominant ones, again, like the anti-dimension magic silver bullets could have been good ones there. Now these ones I'm not really hard set on the fact that they should have been reprinted, but it's something we're talking about. We have the signature cards here, so you have the ones from TOP as well as the later ones from set 7. These cards are kind of up there with like certain SCRs like Awakened Power, where they might be considered like the Power 9 of Dragon Ball Super, where if you got them early on, that's a really great collector investment that you made, and it's going to just keep going up in price over time. Or they could have taken the approach of reprinting these signatures with alternate arts, and by doing that, they could have still had a form of signature card in the set, which may have been a very cool thing, but the OG art prints might have still been able to maintain a lot of their value because they were the OGs. Like if you make them distinctly different from the OG signatures, in terms of like the character artwork, not so much the signature itself, I think you can have an argument there where the originals would maintain a lot of good value and you could still have some really nice chase cards in Mythic Booster, because as far as it goes now, I don't really think there are many chase cards besides like the SCR reprints, maybe the SS3 thwarting reprints as well, and the Beyond All Limits Gokus, but I feel like because those are basically getting common treatment in Mythic Booster, they're only going to be chase cards for a little while after the set actually releases in the US, and then they'll eventually just like end up being pretty cheap even at the SR slot. So again, these could have been like pretty interesting chase cards for this set, but I'm not, again, totally convinced that it would have been the right call to reprint them. Just something that I thought was kind of worth talking about, kind of interesting to note. And then we're going to wrap it up by talking about some SCRs. So obviously, if you guys watched yesterday's video, I think the SS4 Vegeta reprint is a little weird, to be honest, because it's never really been a super sought after SCR, especially compared to these SCRs here. Cell Xeno, I do think is a pretty good one, especially considering the fact that now we have the official text on the card after the errata, so at least players will have a copy of the card that has the right wording on it. And it's always just been a historically good SCR. It's still really good even with the errata change. SS4 Vegeta, though, I think the collector value is pretty cool because the artwork's really nice and it's an iconic character with an iconic transformation. But as far as like a difficult to obtain SCR goes, any of these fills that slot way better. Again, Awakened Power, I talked about it yesterday. I think this might just go down as the Black Lotus of Dragon Ball Super. They are actually quote unquote reprinting it for those that are competing in the World Championship. So there'll be more Awakened Powers out there technically, but again, like talking about the collector's edition binder, that's not a reprint that makes the card more accessible. That's just the card being printed again in a much more difficult to obtain way. So Awakened Power, never expected to be a Mythic Booster reprint, but it could have been possibly if they really wanted to make the card accessible. Goku Vegeta Apex Power, though, I think is a bit more of a realistic one, although again, this is also being handed out for the World Championship, so I guess it makes sense they didn't do it there either. But yeah, this has been a really tough to obtain one. Very, very high collector value. Could have had a really nice reprint in Mythic Booster. And then Broly Ultimate Agent of Destruction, I believe, is the next most expensive SCR. Again, probably for collector value. This card's been very, very meta relevant, though, and I can definitely see it coming back into the meta if there happens to be a green deck that can proc its effect very easily in the near future. But yeah, this could have also been a more realistic one because it's not one of the most like iconic ones like Awakened Power or Apex of Power. So Broly Ultimate Agent of Destruction maybe would have been the best candidate to reprint if you don't want to consider like Baby Hatch and Space Time Unraveler because of how new they are, or because of the second edition printing of some of the Unison Warrior sets. But anyways, guys, just my thoughts. Again, check back tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have that video for you guys ready to talk about some of the World Championship meta. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.